Great, everyone in their seats, ready to go? Thank you so much, again, to the school board candidates tonight for coming. We really appreciate you being here. Like I was just saying to Al, it's really one of the few spots that everyone gets together and we get to see all of you. So thank you very much. We're going to just start with a little introduction of each of you. I'll start with David Kane at the end there. And just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm David Kane. I grew up in McHenry, Illinois. Attended Illinois State University, got a degree in accounting. Then I went to law school at Chicago Kent College of Law. Not only did I get my law degree there, but more importantly, I met my wife there. She is a resident, lifelong resident of Villa Park, and that's how I transitioned down to Villa Park. I've been involved in the community here since the early 90s when I joined the Rotary Club, and I opened my own office right down the street doing tax returns. So much fun. A number of years ago, there was a resignation on the school board, and I applied to fill it. My background in accounting, before I focused on tax, had been in governmental auditing, doing school district audits, village audits, library district audits. So I thought I had something I could help and donate to the, or not, contribute to the school board. Also, I have 3 daughters. One daughter was in all accelerated programs, and another daughter took advantage of the reading specialists and all the other service, or many of the other services the school district offered. And in doing that, I became well aware of the not well aware, but aware of the difficulty that teachers had. Because they would have a classroom of kids with both of my daughters, and they both had different learning styles, and I realized how hard it must be to teach, and so I wanted to get involved in the school board to help support the teachers and to help educate our kids.
Good, thank you. Thanks for being here tonight. How about you, Judy? Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run.
I'm Judy Degnan, and I've been a resident of Villa Park for about 8 years. I'm married. My husband is Bill, and I have 4 children. My 2 oldest went through District 45 and are now at Willowbrook High School. And I have 2 younger students in 5th grade and 2nd grade who are now currently going through District 45 and will be for a while. So, you know, we had lived up in Lake County, and we decided this was where we wanted to be. And so we looked here for, tried to get down here for a long time, and finally we were able to make the move, and so now we're here, and this is where we're staying. I have a background in education. I have a music degree with a Type 9 and Type 10 education certificates, and I taught music for 8 years before I decided to just stay home with the kids. And right now I'm working part-time at in the early childhood department at the Villa Park District, Recreation District. I've been very involved in the schools. I've also been involved in the district. I've been on a lot of district committees, the Strategic Planning Committee, the CAC Committee, the Middle School Committee. I've been very involved at Ardmore School, was the PTA president, and I run the book fairs at Ardmore and Jackson right now, and I just, in 2011, I was nominated by the Education Association as the Volunteer of the Year, so I also received that award. And I'm very involved in the community, so I coach soccer, and I just do a lot of things for them. I help with the youth football program too. So I just wanted, to get more involved and try and make a difference in my kids' education, and I feel like the school board's the way to go.
Good, thank you. Thanks, Judy. How about you, Linda? I know you're a current member on the board. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
Well, my interest in education has really been lifelong. So I looked at it. I was one of those students in the classroom that loved being in school, liked being there, liked being a part of the activities. I had the opportunity, I actually attended Ardmore School in Jackson. It was a junior high school back in the day, and took the opportunity to observe people and watch what happened and just really learn to really like the idea of being a teacher. And when I was at Willowbrook High School later, they had a Future Teachers of America club that I joined. And that gave me a lot of other opportunities, one of which was I got to volunteer for 2 years at Ardmore School as a teaching assistant. And it sort of eventually grew into a program that was offered for many years for high school students, Invitation to Teaching. But in our day, we kind of were the pioneers of that. And that was a fabulous experience. And went on to college, got my degree. Currently, I'm working as a math teacher at Willowbrook High School, which puts me in a unique spot. I got the opportunity to see District 45 years ago as a student, got a chance to follow District 45 in the changes when my own 2 children went through the District 45 schools. And now I get the thrill and experience of seeing the students that are the products of District 45 coming into my classroom as a math teacher, which has been really good and helps me stay connected with what is going on. I too was involved in a lot of the activities. I started my involvement in the district as a parent through the PTA, held a number of officer positions, volunteered, was part of Music Boosters, classroom volunteer, ran family math nights for Westmore School for a number of years. So I've lived in Villa Park almost my whole life, so I've watched a lot of things going on, and when the opportunity presented itself to be on the school board, I thought that was a great fit for me. The opportunity to share my knowledge, my passion for education, and my hope for a community and the hope for school systems to produce good citizens for the future.
Good. It's funny how many people live and stay in Villa Park, isn't it? Like everyone's lived here forever. How about you, Diana? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Have you lived in Villa Park forever?
I actually don't live in Villa Park. I live within the District 45 boundaries, but I technically live in Lombard.
Oh, okay, okay.
So I've lived in Lombard for about 14 years. I grew up in Bolingbrook, attended Bolingbrook High School. I went on to North Central College to get a degree in Management Information Systems, and then where I received a job at Anderson Consulting in Information Systems for about 7 years. I earned my MBA there and immediately quit when I had my children. I just could not leave them. They were my life, and I've devoted my life to them. I've worked my way back into consulting, and now I help with taxes. I do some of that, but where my real passion lied was with the students and my children. And I realized maybe I should have chosen a different career path, than I have chosen. But since my son had stepped into kindergarten, I was just very interested in the school system and very interested to help in any way I could, starting with just being a room mom, then PTA president, PTA council president, and this seemed like something that was a logical step. But what made me really want to be a board member, I want to share a quick story of when I attended a board meeting a couple years ago. I was attempting to get elections taken out of our school. Our doors were still open at that time for polling, and I was concerned with the doors being open that our children were not safe. So myself and 3 other moms, we got together, we met, we presented to the board. And due to the constraints of the board meeting, sometimes they can't respond to you directly. Although I think they would like to, they just cannot. However, there was one gentleman on the board who found me at the break and said, I hear your concern. It might not be my concern, but I hear you. And we will follow up with you, and we will make sure this is taken care of. And that is what I want to be to the community, for the teachers and the students and the parents. I want to be that person that they can come to and know that, yes, your voice will be heard with me, even if I don't agree with you.
Good.
That's what it is.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. How about you, Jay? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Jay Tovian. I've lived in Lombard for 40 years. I've lived in School District 45 for 40 years. My son is a graduate of the system. I am a widower, but I am a proud grandfather of 3, and I'm a very proud grandfather of my oldest grandson, who's a member of the United States Navy. And he's stationed in Japan. Not bad for an 18-year-old. My granddaughter is a sophomore at Glenbard South, and my youngest grandson is a 7th grader at Glencrest Middle School. For me, this is actually going to be the start of a second go-around, hopefully. I served on the Board of Education from 1979 to 2001. Resigned in 2001 to become the business manager for the school district, and then ultimately retired in 2009. I found that over the 30 years I was involved that some of the problems today are very similar to problems we experienced over those 30 years, and I feel that my experience would be an asset to the board. I have the time and the commitment. I believe in giving back to the community. That's a strong thing that I believe in. I'm also, just because I live in Lombard doesn't mean I don't participate in Villa Park. I'm a charter member of the Villa Park Kiwanis Club and also the treasurer of the Villa Park Rotary Club. And both of those organizations are very supportive of district activities. Since I have retired, I just can't stay away from education, so I am now the Director of Finance for the Regional Office of Education for DuPage County, and I'm working 3 days a week. I'm also the treasurer of our lobbying group, Legislative Education Network at DuPage, and I think that's a very important thing. Thank you.
Okay, good, thank you. Thanks for being here. How about you, Tracy? Tell me about yourself and why you're running.
I'm Tracy Roman, and I have lived here for 16 years in Villa Park. I grew up on the south side of the city, and I have 2 children in the district, 3rd grade and 6th grade, and I am running for school board because I am that parent that is not afraid, that does speak up when I do see an issue or when I feel an issue is not being kind of addressed. So I have been, at the principal's office numerous times, and as well as have a relationship with Dr. Rosales. So I feel that this is kind of like my next step to really, because I'm fully vested and very, very passionate about education and making sure that the kids, not just my own, but all of them, get a full and complete and they can be whatever they want to be, and just I think that we can give them more at this point. And I'm seeing time as being, and I also I'm very active, and again I'm very passionate. I've been active in the PTA, and I just want to do more. And this is kind of something that I have kind of been driven to. And anybody who talks to me knows that I'm very passionate about it.
Good, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, Stacy's holding up 1 minute cards, just so you guys know, and then Amanda's, you'll have 2 minutes to answer the questions that we've come up with for you guys tonight. I'll start with Judy. We'll kind of go down the line, and talk to me about what are your 3 top priorities if you're elected.
Well, my first, not in any particular order, but the first one I'll talk about is we need to keep our district fiscally responsible. And, the climate right now, you just never really know what's going to happen. There's so many questions going on out there. Our state is habitually behind in their payments to our school districts, and our school districts are constantly having to be creative in how and where they put their money. So that's one of the things that I feel is really, really important to our district. We're such a small district. Most of our money comes from our taxes on our houses. So, we have a tight budget, and we're always running on a tight budget. So that's something we always really need to be very fully aware of as a district. Second, I am, being that I was a music major, I am really passionate about music, and I have kids in music, and I have kids that are athletes, and some of my children have participated in all those clubs they offer, so I really want to make sure those stay in our districts. Sometimes those are what really keep our kids happy in our district and keeps them wanting to go to school. So I feel those are really important. And lastly, I guess I would say is that I just want to make sure that our district continues to give our students a really well-rounded, top-notch education. We have strived to do that right now. We have so many great educators. We need to keep them all happy and help them to do the best job that they can do. So I feel that's really important too.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How about you, Linda? What would you say are your top 3 priorities? I know all of you have many priorities, but we're trying to keep it not going all night.
I will work on that. I think the first you've heard, I think Judy did a nice job of articulating the economic situation. It's certainly been the practice of our board. One of our goals that we've set is to live within our budget, live within our means, our financial means, that is. And it's been tough. There have been a lot of funding delays that have put us back and make us concerned about continuing the good programs that people have invested a lot of time in and teachers are doing a quality job doing. So that has been tough. But we also felt that it's important we owe it to our taxpayers that give us those funds from property taxes to be very responsible with the funds that we have. So we are going to have to be very creative in how we use those funds as we move forward. We have to be very diligent and responsive to what the needs are of how to spend those dollars. I think one way to address that is to try to develop more relationships with the legislators. They're the ones in control of a lot of those dollars and the things that happen. And sometimes I feel there's some disconnect there that we need to strive to build those relationships so that we can stay on top of things so we're not reacting to things that happen, but maybe having input into how things happen monetarily. I think that's important. Second priority I have is also about communication, and specifically as a board member, communication with the Board of Education. Our meetings are a formal structure to conduct the business, but the board member can't work in isolation. We serve as a team of 7 people to address the needs, and our goal is to set a vision for the district. And part of our vision is to provide our learners with an exceptional and comprehensive education. And to do that, we have to work and should work and want to work and desire to work with others and be receptive to ideas, responsive and engaging our parents, our community members, staff, and students in that decision-making process. So to me, that teamwork piece is vital to how we operate. And the third priority that I would say is in supporting our educational programs, one of the biggest things we can do is to continue to fund staff development so that our teachers can be trained in the latest ideas and best practices. Very important.
Good, okay, thank you. How about you, Diana? What would you say are your top 3 once you're elected?
Okay. In no particular order, I would like to see student challenge at every level. I have noticed certain gaps, perhaps, of areas that could be filled. For example, maybe a high achiever who has not made it into the gifted program but is not being challenged by the current curriculum, which may be taken care of with Common Core. I'm hopeful, but that's one thing I would like the teachers to meet the student at every level they're at, from 1 to 10, and everyone in between. So that's one if I saw any of those come across, I would really be behind those, because I think that's very important. Secondly, they were talking about fiscal responsibility. I completely agree. Being on the board, I think they have a little more experience to speak to that, but what I would like to add was that the money be spent with regards to our diverse community. What some schools look like are dramatically different from what other schools look like. And I would like to make sure that the money is being spent in a way where everybody's benefiting and it makes sense. So if we're told to do something from central office and we come to a vote, I would like the discussion to be, is this fitting for every school? Can it be tailored a different way to a different school? What makes sense instead of just stamping it for every school? So I'd like to be able to have those conversations. And lastly, as I touched on earlier, my biggest goal is to be approachable, honest, fair, and trustworthy to the students and citizens and teachers and anybody who has a concern. I think it's very important that they know that their concerns will not die with me and that I will see it to a conclusion. It may not be the conclusion that they're looking for, but I will give it my honest and best shot to get them the answers they need.
Good, okay, thank you. Jay, we're hearing a lot of good stuff. How about
Well,
you?
yeah.
What are your top 3
You're
priorities?
going to hear probably some of the same stuff. Actually, I would like to combine the 2 into 1. I would like to talk about finances and unfunded mandates. That's a very difficult issue today. It's very difficult to even try to put together a short and a long-term range plan when you don't know what's going to happen. The last I heard, the state was $800,000 behind in its payments to the district. Well, that's a problem that has to be resolved. I know we can't do that, but I think with the help of the community and the parents, we can put some pressure on our legislators to get the finances squared away And if we can't get the finances squared away, give districts some leeway in how they deal with all these unfunded mandates. One of the big issues, and I know there's a lot of teachers in the audience, is what are they going to do with pensions? Are they going to shift the costs back to the school districts? Are they going to increase the teacher cost? Are they going to increase the district employer costs? Those are things we don't know, and all those things have an effect on the bottom line. Let me just give you a couple facts. In 1991 and 1999, there were only 12 unfunded mandates. In 2000 to 2012, there were 110. And during the 2012-13 school year, there are going to be 63 new unfunded mandates. Those are very difficult to deal with. We need a little leeway and freedom in being able to deal with them. And finally, my third objective or goal is we always have to keep safety in mind. We need to have a safe haven for students and for staff. What happened in the rest of the country can happen anywhere, and we need to make sure we're up to date on everything.
Okay, great, thanks. How about you, Tracy? Talk to us about your priorities.
The first, again, in no particular order, the first thing I'd really like to do is just kind of to re-energize the board and make it truly representative of the community. I think the Board of Education is your representatives. You're sending representatives to a smaller kind of, like a Senate or a House of Representatives. So we are, if I'm elected, I will be a representative of the people, and I want people to know that I want to hear concerns. I want to hear any concerns or feedback or anything that you want the board to know, because I think that's important, and I think that currently there, sometimes you don't feel that you're really heard, and I feel that that's very important to be heard. The second thing that I'd like to do is just kind of take a step back. I kind of like to do that in my own life, is to kind of take a step back and look at what we do and kind of just question the things that we do, question the status quo, while also being fiscally responsible. I plan to, you have to use it just like your home. You only have so much money, and sometimes you have to take a step back and see what's really a priority, what's really important. And I also, sometimes you have to use a creative process. I have been a Destination Imagination team manager for 5 years, and we talk about being creative, and a spoon is not a spoon in Destination Imagination, so I think you can use the same thing and apply the same method to business, and just thinking out of the box, thinking of new ways to solve a problem. And then the last thing that obviously I'm very passionate about is academic excellence. I am challenging each kid at every level that they're at. I think that okay is not okay. Shooting for mediocrity is not okay. And I think that's it, and make sure that we use every resource that we have, which obviously one of the number ones is the teachers.
Good, thank you. Jay, we're back to you. It's been a little while. How about you? What are your top 3 priorities?
My top priority is going to be a shock to people, maintain the financial stability of the district.
That is shocking.
Yes.
We haven't heard that at all.
Yeah, being a CPA in town. But we need to maintain the financial stability so that we can respond to the challenges that are coming ahead. The state, in their reductions of the finances or the financial aid for us, the potential pension cost shift that's coming down, and also we need to be in a position where we can take advantage of new programs and new curriculum, and we have to be financially sound to be in that position. The second thing that we need to do is we need to continue to work. One of the things we've done a lot of recently is working with District 88 and Willowbrook High School. We need to make sure that our kids, when they leave 8th grade, are prepared for 9th grade. I mean, whether they're going from kindergarten to 1st grade, 5th grade to 6th grade, or 8th grade to high school, our goal should be to make sure that they are prepared for that next level and to be successful at that next level. So we have to work with 88, make sure that we align the curriculum, to use education speak, so that everybody is moving along in the same way. And the third thing we have to do is we have to make sure we have the resources, the professional development, and the technology available for our teachers so that they can do the job and they can meet the challenges as we implement new curriculum and move forward in the district. So those are my top three.
Okay, good. Thank you all for the answers about that question. Some good stuff. So, Linda, I'm going to start with you on this one. It's everywhere, and we're hearing about it, is the childhood obesity epidemic, and a lot of the people in the community are wondering. Obviously, it's very much something that parents need to be a part of at home, but also what can we do in the schools to help with that?
Well, I do agree. We hear a lot about the childhood obesity or obesity in general and how overweight our society is. And many of the studies that are out there about human behaviors talk about how habits begin at younger ages. And that is certainly the partnership that the schools can then have with the home and the family that you mentioned. So, you know, we already incorporate things and could continue to do or in timely discussions in, you know, the health portions of our curriculum to have those kinds of discussions with students, and, you know, timeliness is important and early intervention. Physical education programs throughout our school district also are a component of the healthy lifestyle, living it, exercising, being fit, being healthy. Its relationship to learning is important. Many teachers do things elementary level, just get kids up to be moving to get things going on in the brain. There's a great connection that goes there. A lot of learning theory is looking at physical activity just in general. We could put all that together as a package. I think it fits well into the school system for that situation. Interesting, I mentioned earlier that one of the things we could do is partner with or create a relationship with legislators. Believe it or not, as you know, this thing came across the questions for tonight, there's actually a couple bills being proposed. We have the new legislators, the freshman legislators in our you know, state assembly. There's two bills out there that deal with PE. One of them is basically to work with the waivers of how schools can sort of waive out of having PE offered, but one of them is rather staggering. It actually would allow schools to it would no longer be required to have PE K-12. And that worries me. I think that is in opposition to what all the movements out there about obesity say is physical education should be a major component of the fight against childhood obesity, and yet we have two bills in our state legislature right now. Where they're at in committee, it's kind of hard to always determine that actually address the fact of not having physical education. So we as parents and the parent community and PTA could work together to do that and try and defeat that bill.
To stop that, yeah. How about you, Diana? What do you think about the epic of obesity, and what is the school's role in trying to help it? Stop it.
Help stop
Not
it,
help
right.
it.
I actually have seen quite a shift, in my opinion, in the last couple of years about how the school does look at what the students are eating and their activity levels. Just to give you an example, we have a Fit in 45 initiative. So now at our school parties, we're not allowed to serve all treats. We have to have one healthy snack, and then one would be considered a treat. We're also very, you know, conscious about any kind of allergies. Really, that was something new. Parents didn't at first. They wanted to be able to send in their birthday treats, but now you can have an extra recess. You could have a child read a book. That was awesome. That was one of the biggest changes I've seen. It worked very well. We've also seen a relook at our food server, arbor. We had a couple of parents on a committee, a PTA had set up, and they did a study on it. Things have changed. For fun, I do lunchroom supervising. I'm not doing it now, I'm taking a break, but it was interesting to see the amount of fruit and vegetables that are offered to our children. So to get them to take it is something else, but it is being offered there. And the menus have changed. Also, we have an AM fruit break, and they're encouraged to eat. They're told they can't bring fruit snacks and cookies and things like that. They're encouraged to eat real fruit, which is a really good thing. Jim, I'd like to see it every day. It doesn't fit into the time of the day, but if we could have it every day, that would even be better. But I guess my point I'm trying to say is it's gotten better. And I'd like to continue to see it get better, and I certainly would not want PE to be taken away. But I would also like students to have the modeling from their parents and their teachers as well. So maybe the teacher doesn't come in, or don't make it obvious that you're bringing in a giant Coke every day, things like that. So just be a good example to your students, and they, maybe that'll help. And parents, also don't take them out to fast food every day. I think everybody has their role in this one. And I think the schools are doing a good job. Keep it going that way.
Good. Okay, Jay, how about you?
Well, I think a lot of the important things have been said, but it has to be a partnership between the parents and the schools. It just can't be one or the other. The other thing is that working for the DuPage ROE, I've learned some things, and there are some programs that are available through the DuPage County Health Department. They have a program that is funded by outside sources that they call the Forward Initiative, and it's dealing with child obesity. And in talking to some of the people at the health department, they say they're in constant contact with the nurses in basically every school district, and they do get information about, not by name, but just by grade level, kindergartners, sixth graders, and ninth graders. And they offer some services that probably could be beneficial. Number one, they'll help review your wellness policy to make sure that what you have is what you really need to have in that policy. They'll also offer some advice on meeting with the food vendor to make sure that even though the lunches that they serve all meet federal guidelines for nutritional values and so on, there are things that can be done, and they're willing to at least offer some advice for your discussions with them. Some of the concerns, though, are that if you go to a different kind of a lunch program, it gets to be much more expensive. I mean, the healthier you make it, it tends to increase the cost of the food product. And the concern is, will parents, if we were to move to something like that, will parents be able to pay for the lunches? Some feel lunches are too expensive today, and they can only get more expensive as time goes on. So there's a lot of issues and concerns that have to be dealt with.
Okay, good. Thanks. Tracy, talk to us about how you feel that the school board should be involved with childhood obesity.
Anybody who knows me knows that I can go a lot longer than 2 minutes on this topic. Number one, I feel that a school's job, a school district's job, is to educate and prepare kids for their future years and next stages and on to adulthood. And obviously, health and exercise is a very large part of that. Every year, the science books I have checked has something about nutrition and health in it. And yet, I worked very hard. Diana mentioned a couple of parents. I was one of those parents that worked really hard with administration to try to get the lunches to look more like we are telling the kids that they should be eating. We are not where I feel that we should be. We are definitely, we made progress, and I'm currently on the advisory board that meets with Arbor to try and make suggestions to the lunches. That was a big thing for me, and part of that, so the food is part of that, and then the second part is the PE portion, the exercise, and making sure kids are exercising. Illinois actually has a daily PE requirement, and I'm not quite sure, I know that our kids are not getting that, and I don't have an answer for that yet, why we don't, but that isn't a requirement in Illinois. And also, one of the other things that I'd like to change is one of the main disciplinary measures is to take away recess, which we are taking away the kids' kind of outlet to get out and get kind of that frustration from sitting to do that. So there's studies that show that recess is very important. And then also a couple other things is I think the Board of Education, the Wellness Committee, and PTAs could be working together to kind of make sure that we're making sure that the wellness policy is being adhered to. And lastly, there's a Schaumburg-Hoffman Estates thing that they're getting together with the Park District elected officials and all kind of working together on this issue, and I don't see a reason why we can't.
Good, thank you. I know how important this has been to you, so good. How about you, David? What would you say about this epidemic and what the school board should do about it?
Well, I don't want to put too much on the schools. the schools are not responsible for the health of the students. They need to educate. That is our primary goal. So I agree with Tracy about the education. And as part of that, our physical education curriculum, we have a fitness center at each of the middle schools. And we have worked in fitness training into the PE courses instead of just learning the games, learning the rules of the games and playing that. So we are trying to encourage activity, lifelong activity. The food, the quality of the lunches, et cetera. Again, as Jay mentioned, and again, as we all mentioned at the beginning, the financial stability, the federal government reimburses us so much money per each lunch, for lunch. We have a number of students, a number of families in our district who can't afford the lunches. So they get free and reduced lunch. We have to keep our menus consistent with federal guidelines, but it has to be relatively close to what the federal government reimburses us. Because if nobody is paying us for that lunch, and we are relying solely on the federal government, if we start spending too much money, then we're diverting resources that could be used for the improvement of instruction and in the classroom to feeding kids. Now, healthy lunches is good. Healthy lunches are important. But we have limited resources, and we need to make sure that we use them in our main goal, which is the school district. Our main goal is education.
Is chocolate milk federally mandated?
I
That
don't
would be
know
my
the federal-
question.
I don't know the federal mandate.
The healthy lunches is, that's the
Yeah.
one thing that bugs me about our school lunches, so. Judy, tell me a little bit about what you think about the chocolate milk. It kills me, you know? They all have skim milk or water. Anyway, it's a topic that's important to me. How about you, Judy? Talk to us about childhood obesity and what the schools should do, you know, whether or not you're responsible.
Well, I
for being
think the
part of it.
schools are responsible in a way. I mean, but we can only do so much, you know. I believe, you know, education is definitely important and is the key here to just educating parents and the kids and modeling for the kids and providing them with healthy lunch, as healthy as we can afford. I agree with Dave. I mean, at some point, we have a budget that we have to stay within. And as Jay said, how much is a parent willing to spend for a lunch for their student, right? I mean, we do have some federally sponsored initiatives coming down. You know, Michelle Obama's got the Let's Move, and there's going to be money spent or given, you know, allocated to the schools to help enhance the lunch and the breakfast programs for our students. But I think we need to educate. We need to talk about portion control and maybe even, you know, use our science curriculum or our social studies curriculum to help enforce that and bring that into the school a little bit more. But I do believe that the students need PE every day. They need to be out, getting out their bugs. So much is expected from our kids right now. They need to have a minute, you know, 20 minutes outside. I know my son's teacher does this 30-minute, 30-second, what's it called?
He's in the audience.
Yeah, they get up and move. So for 30 seconds,
Brain gym.
she
Brain
turns, okay, brain gym. She turns the music on and they all get up and they start dancing and moving around the classroom, and after 30 seconds is over, they're all back in their seats. I've been there when it happens. It's amazing. They love it. So I think that, you know, we need to model as a community, as the school district, as the teachers, but I think that the education part, working with the parent groups, you know, all the parent groups, and just educating them on what's good for us is the way to go.
Good. Okay, good. Thank you. Linda, you were the first one to answer that one. So Diana, kind of switching topics here, but also on the, in respect with education and the academic part of it, we're talking about Common Core. That's something that's passing into law in 2014. For those of you in the viewing audience and those of you that are here, well, probably most of you that are here know about Common Core, but it's basically a curriculum that's going to go across the board, so kids are up to the same standard, basically. So that's passing into law in 2014. Diana, talk to me about how you think that the board is responsible for kind of getting schools through that transition.
My first concern with that, which I think the board would need to do, is to support the parents through the dip in scores. I think that's going to alarm a lot of parents, and with constant and consistent information, it may make it a little bit easier for them. Give them an idea of what drop to expect. Let them know where we are relative to other districts, maybe what has happened in the past. Instead of just saying the scores are going to be lower, maybe show them what has happened historically when other areas have done something like this. And managing those expectations are going to be huge, I think. And we can do that as a board. We can address that as a board. I think that's going to be very helpful to the parents. I also think that we need to support any kind of materials and services that we're going to need. Now, my son is doing the pilot right now for math, and I can tell you it is a lot harder than it was before. He used to not have to study at all, and he would float through. Now he's going to actually look at his books and read through them and work a little harder. I think we need to provide parents and teachers with tools to teach them, but also enhance what you're learning in the classroom. What if they don't get what they need in the classroom? For whatever reason, they come home and they don't know it. Is there an application they could go to learn that? Give them a tool so they can go home and do a little more on their own if need be. So that if they feel like school, they just can't get it in school, some of the students, they have some sort of website that can help them catch up and feel more confident in their studies. And I'd like to see that happen.
Good. Okay, thank you. How about you, Jay? Talk to us about Common Core.
Well, that is a very important issue, the one about the lower test scores. I mean, they've already come out, and scores are definitely lower. But one of the things we have to make sure we emphasize to the parents and the community is that schools are not failing. It's just the result of recognizing these Common Core into the grading of the test. And so the percentage of those who meet or exceed or do not is changing, but it's not really changing because the kids aren't learning, and we need to emphasize that. And again, having a little bit of an advantage, the Regional Office of Education has put out a press release. It was written by Dr. Russetti and several superintendents to explain in simple, everyday language what is really happening, so there isn't a big panic. From the standpoint of the math and the English language arts, those are the two that are coming in 14. I think one of the things the board has to make sure is that as they oversee how this is being done through the curriculum, the most important thing is making sure that the communication between the district, the elementary district, and the high school district is there, because otherwise it could be a disaster. But I think the intent of the Common Core is just to make every student stronger so that when they get out of high school, they either go to college, they enter the workforce, or become a more productive member of society. So I think Common Core is good, but we're going to have to monitor it very carefully. And I think when it comes to who's going to put it together, I think the board needs to oversee it, but that's why you hire the very good administrators we have in the district to really work on merging it into the curriculum.
Okay, good. And it is part of it's starting to be a part of the curriculum already. So, so Tracy, talk to me about Common Core and kind of how you see that the board needs to support the schools as well as the parents through that. Yeah.
It's actually very exciting that this country is actually doing this now. It kind of took a while, but I think it's a great thing that we have clear standards and consistent so that everybody's on the same page. And I think the biggest thing with this, because when I read this question, I transitioned, and I think we're definitely in a transition over the next couple of years. The biggest thing, and I have exclamation points in my notes, is listen to the teachers. Listen to the teachers, listen to the teachers. Because the teachers are there every day in the classroom, and they know where the kids are and where the Common Core says they should be and where it's kind of where it's sticky and where there are issues, and support the teachers with the tools that they need to make sure to get the kids where they need to go. And then also get parents' information, because I think there's still, parents know Common Core, but I think there's still a lot of, what really is it, and what is it gonna do for, what is it gonna do to my kid, and what does that mean for school, and so get parents' information, and there's actually a lot of information online. So I think we should just make sure that the schools are kind of throwing out that information and maybe having sessions with parents, so parents truly understand what is kind of happening and what the changes are from the old to the new. I think and the one thing that I have too is a concern that we don't use the Common Core, the standards, is now this is what we're shooting for. I think we should always shoot for above and not, stop there, because there are kids that obviously are gonna be able to go beyond that, and so I don't want us to kind of be complacent that this is where we're shooting. So that's just kind of a concern of mine.
Good, okay, thank you. David, talk to me about what you think, how the board is responsible for kind of getting us through this transition to Common Core.
Well, I think the main thing the board is responsible for is hiring excellent administrators and teachers. And we need to let them do their jobs. They're the professionals. And right now, we have some very excellent educational leaders in Dr. Rosales, Dr. Messina, and Mr. Palmisano, who will be coming in. We have been working on the implementation of the Common Core now for a couple of years. And if you stop in and see what Dr. Messina has done, there are spreadsheets about how we are moving this from this time to this time, and we are on the brink of overload right now, trying to get this implemented so that people can move forward. Now, we will be seeing a drop in scores. They have rescored the ISAT tests. They have publicized that. One of the things that has bothered me tremendously for years is the concept of failing schools. The way our schools are assessed, and then the label of a failing school, because you have one small subgroup not performing up to grade level, and you're labeling that whole school as not performing, is just ridiculous. And we need to do a better job, not just for the Common Core implementation, but in general, educating people what it means when they hear these test scores come out and they hear that a school didn't make AYP, because a school could have missed AYP because a kid was absent, and they didn't get to test enough of the students in a subgroup. And then that school is labeled failing. That's what we need to do from a parental standpoint in terms of educating the parents what it means.
Okay, good, thank you. Judy, how about you and Common Core and how to kind of get through this transition?
Well, I know that Common Core is a big thing for Illinois. It's new and everybody's facing it head on. But really, I feel like a lot of our teachers in the district have been teaching the Common Core standards for a long time. Now we just need to get everyone on board. And one of the best ways I think our district can do this is to provide our teachers, listen to our teachers, listen to what they need, but to provide them with as much professional development as we can give them. They use the in-service days, the half days, bringing in speakers. I know the district, our district pays for an online professional development software that the teachers can use. And we really need to listen to them. They're the experts. And when we're piloting programs and piloting textbooks, we don't just get the textbooks. There's so much more that goes with the textbooks that can help the teachers do a better job. We need to listen to what they feel they need and try to support that as much as we can. Secondly, I think, yes, communication is going to be really, really important. And as someone said before, we're already working with District 88 to move our kids to the next step and make sure they're prepared, and that needs to continue. We need to communicate with the parents too, because let's face it, the test scores are going to look scary to a lot of parents when they first see that. It'll be a shock. The new standards, they set the bar at a higher level, but Common Core, it shows, research shows that when you challenge a child, they step up to that challenge. And it might take a few years to get to the level that we need to be at, but I know that the students in our district can do this.
Good. Okay, thank you. Linda, talk to us about Common Core and kind of what you've seen so far with
Well, I
it.
think my role as the last one is probably to summarize, because most of the points that I was going to say have been stated very well. So I definitely agree with the listen to the teacher piece, and I don't say that in all fairness because I am a teacher, but it is because the fact that the teachers are in the classroom, they're seeing where the students are struggling and what supports they need. So we need to listen to them. What is it that they need to understand better from the Common Core? What's the level of expectation? To say what a student needs to do, there is some vagueness, to say the least, in some of the Common Core. So what does that really mean? And the teachers have been doing a task for a while, which sounds really bizarre, but it's called unpacking the standards, where you take it and you break it down and you come to that decision as a group. What does that mean? But that's been done internally and professionally. We need to have administrators who have a knowledge to be able to provide that support to them, to come to the board then and say, we need extra dollars for some staff development, some other resources. We need new teaching materials, perhaps for a certain curricular area, so that those students can rise to the occasion. I think the parent piece is a big deal for me, because I think as an educator, we've done a lot of talking as educators about what this means and how we're going to meet that task. Parents hear about it on some level, but I think probably one of the easiest explanations I could think of to give for this is, I hear all the time, oh yeah, I didn't take, algebra till I was a junior in high school and now they're doing it in 8th grade. Well, the Common Core standards from a parent perspective might look the same. To say, gee, my older student didn't learn that till 5th grade and now my younger one's learning it in 3rd grade. And that's a big adjustment, and as a result of that, we need patience. The board needs to have patience as things develop. Parents need to have patience, administrators, teachers, because it will take time to actually transition totally to the Common Core. Probably the ones that have it the easiest are our incoming students. They don't have to
They won't
get
know
caught
any
up, if
different.
you will. So.
Right. Okay, good, thank you. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of years how this all comes about. You know what, I think if you guys are okay, we'll do one more question. Because David kind of touched on this a little bit about schools not meeting AYP. And one of the questions that kind of came up, again, from the community and people talking about this stuff is, there are schools in our district that are labeled failing. One of the ways to deal with that is the choice program. And so I gave you guys the question about choice program, but maybe you can just kind of talk about that all. What do we do with those schools that are labeled failing, but maybe not failing? And how does the board, reconcile all of that and make parents feel comfortable, and about the parents that are maybe choosing to go to a different school in that district? How does that all work? I know that's a lot to talk about, but Jay, can you just kind of touch on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, but I think
In 2 minutes?
I have to agree with some of the things Dave said. Just because of a small group, or there's even an attendance factor in there. If the attendance is not proper, you can fail. But that doesn't mean the school is failing, and I think the best example I can give of that is the last board meeting at Schaefer School. Now, Schaefer School is one of those schools. And the principal and the assistant principal made it very clear that Schaefer is not a failing school. There are good things happening at Schaefer School, but only because of the way the feds have set up the guidelines for AYP. I mean, it almost looks like it's a formula for a disaster because of the way they set it up. I mean, it shouldn't be that way, because good things are happening in all the schools, even schools that haven't made AYP, but you have to look and see why did they not make AYP. And it's a shame to brand a school because of a small group or a number that just doesn't come out the way it should. And as far as the, what's going on in the schools, I think there's resources, there's things that are being done to bring schools back to where they should be. And I think as long as that continues to happen, I think there are good things happening. I know if I were to put myself in the parents' shoes, and just because that school was failing, I'm not sure I would move my student out. I would take a look and see what is really happening. And if you would have been at that presentation, you would know that there are good, positive things happening at that school. I mean, that principal couldn't have been more energetic about all the good stuff that was happening. And I think that's the way we have to look at it.
So how about you, Tracy, talking about kind of the choice that parents may or may not send their kids to another school? And like we're talking about, the AYP doesn't necessarily mean that the school is failing per se.
Absolutely, because actually 5 of our 8 schools show is failing. So, and I don't think that that is a good reflection. Obviously, I don't think, so the teachers at one school are better than the other. I think the district, the standards for the teachers are the same. So how can we say that teachers at Westmore or teachers at Ardmore are better than teachers at Schaefer? There's no way that we can say that. So I don't, because of that label, I think it's unfortunate, but it's the perception, and I think that's why parents are saying that they want the choice. The federal government says that the district has to offer them the choice, but I think it's perception, and I think it's the board's job, and maybe there's a better way of doing it, maybe kind of thinking out of the box, like I said, of trying to present it to parents, to change the perception of why they think maybe that's not a good school, because obviously there's teachers, there's principals at that school that are caring and are trying to make it not look on that piece of paper that they're failing. So I don't really have anything else to really say, because I think it really boils down to perception. We hire great teachers, and that they're at one of the 8 schools, and everybody is trying their best, so I don't think that we can say that one school is better than the other.
How about you, David? Would you agree with that assessment? That the schools are generally in our district doing well? It's maybe just a perception problem?
Oh, I think in a lot of ways there is a perception problem. There's a perception that certain schools are better than other schools. And that perception has been around for years, because I remember having discussions with certain family members about that years ago. The one thing I can unequivocally say is, while we may have schools not making AYP, we have no failing schools. Because all our schools are educating students and are preparing kids to be successful. They are all doing a fabulous job at what they're supposed to be doing. Now, we may have some schools with some poor test takers. We may have some schools with kids who have more difficulty understanding the English language and therefore have trouble with the tests. But we don't have any failing schools. And as far as the choice goes, we have no choice but to offer choice. On the other hand, it's a testament to the schools that we don't have more parents. If we really had failing schools, we would have parents bailing out of those schools. And most of those parents choose to keep their children in the school. Because, and why is that? It's because they know the teachers. They know the quality of the people. They know that the teachers are committed, and they care about their student, not only as how they're doing academically, but as a person. And what we have to do is move to the model. When my daughter was in 2nd grade, the teacher told us, don't measure her against other kids. Measure her against how she has improved over the year. And that's what we need to do.
We need to change, really, the country, not just our district, right? Yeah, come on, we can do it. Judy, how about you? Any thoughts on this topic?
I agree, I guess, with most of the people here. Our country's really data-driven. everything is about the score and
And the tests.
and the tests and the most people this and most people that. And, you know, a piece of paper doesn't tell you, give you a true assessment of what that student is like. As David said, you know, you can have a poor test taker and it doesn't look good on paper. And we all know when we do our budget at home, we say, yeah, I think I can handle all this, and then once everything gets going, it's like, well, what happened to all that money? You know, so I know as a parent, I would stick with my school, even if it was failing, because my kids like it there. They love the teachers, and they're comfortable. So, I mean, we have to support the fact that the state mandates that we give a choice, but, you know, I know that I would keep my kids at their school.
Linda, what about you? And let me ask too, just kind of as a subtext of this, the thing that we talked about is there's the same lines, but that the parents are concerned that if they did decide to go with the choice program and send their kid to one school, but then maybe the next year there wouldn't be, you know, there's all that involved with it too. So how do you think the board can kind of help with this?
Well, you know, starting with the idea of choice, again, as I said, it's federal law.
There's no
So the
choice,
school district
right.
has to comply with that, so there really is no choice. But, you know, to kind of, being the math person again, the data piece of it is, I looked up the numbers to see how many we have. We sort of, you know, have fluctuated, but it's really less than 2% of our total district population is participating in choice. So I think if you're going to look at making the decision with data like that or not, people are choosing exactly what people have already said, to stay in their neighborhood school. And why do they do that? Because they know that their experience their child is having was a good one. And they like the growth that they're seeing in their own child. They like how their child likes to go to school, is invested in the school, and they walk out the door and they're wearing their school t-shirt for a spirit day and things like that. They're connected to their teachers. Their teachers know them. That's huge. There's a risk in choice because you are trying something new. And that's almost like, you know, moving to another location sometimes. What do parents look for when they look for another location? Oftentimes they ask the realtors, tell me about the schools. And so when you're making that choice to make the move, to do that, there's a risk in there, and that's somewhat concern over the unknown. So, you know, I think the school district, in terms of, you know, the parent piece, if you have that conversation, you take a look at why is it that you would like to change to another school, if that is your choice, and create that dialogue and that communication. Many times some parents that have contacted the district and looked over the years of making a choice have decided not to. So I think that's that information piece. Get the information, make the best informed decision that you can make. And we've typically said once you've made the choice to move to the other school, you are allowed to stay there. So
You
that-
are allowed to stay there.
Now,
Okay.
some people have moved back,
Okay.
but that has been sort of our internal policy. That's not mandated by federal law, but that's our internal choice about choice.
Okay. How about you, Diana? Any thoughts on this?
Real quick question. If they are in elementary school, are they allowed to now attend that middle school? Is that policy?
No,
In
it's
the
not.
district where
It
they
gets a
have to go
little
back?
fuzzier, but
Okay.
no, it hasn't been
Okay, so
typically the case.
therein lies my point. My first point is consistency, because that's what I thought. I thought that if you attend the elementary school, then you would go back to your home middle school.
Your home middle
And there's
school,
been some
right.
discussion amongst parents where that has not happened, where some have not. And then parents cry foul because their child wasn't allowed, but another child was. So we as a board have to be very careful that if we set a rule, it is followed for every single person and that there is not an exception. Because then it opens up the door as to why was that an exception. And that is what I have seen as a parent, a lot of discussion and bad feelings about that has happened in the last year or two. And then I would also like to make the point that a couple years ago, my school was very close to not meeting AYP for the first time ever, only because our percentage had gotten so high, it was hard to get it higher. And the principal at that time, Mr. Dominic Suppich, had said, well, let's look at the other side of this, because if we fail by a fraction of a percent, perhaps we're getting funding that we would not have gotten before. It's a different way to look at it, for parents to say, our school's still really good, we're still hitting 85%, which is really, really good, but if we fail by a fraction, again, the word fail, I wouldn't like to say fail, we don't meet by a fraction, then maybe we can get some funding we wouldn't normally have. It's another way to look at it. And I would also encourage the board to look at who is using the choice program. Of those 2%, are these students who are academically advanced wanting to move to a better school, or are they in fact looking for a way out of their school for some other reason? Perhaps behavioral issues. I've seen a lot of movement there. And I would like to question if we could possibly guide that a little bit more closely. So that's not a vehicle, an unattended vehicle of moving students around who really need some social emotional learning support as opposed to moving schools. Thank you.
Okay, good, thank you. Well, that's all the questions we have. I gave you guys extra ones from the community. People are very interested in the school board, and of course, all of us with kids really want to see great things in the next couple of years. So thank you all so much for being here. It meant a lot to our club. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for watching at home, and I hope this helps everyone kind of make more informed decisions at the polls.
Well, on behalf of all of us who are here tonight, I hope I would speak for everybody else. We want to say thank you to the Villa Park Junior Women's Club for
thank you.
allowing us to have this opportunity to share what hopefully you learned from us tonight and the library board before us, and we'll learn next time with the village board candidates that there are many people in your community that want to serve the community in different capacities, and we thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our ideas with all of you. So thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
They've asked me from the control room to come over and ask Angie to bring up the folks who have not been on camera that are part of your group, your organization, holding up the signs, to come over here.
Yes, come on,
Come over here, please.
ladies.
And to everybody that was here tonight, thank you very much. Remember this place. We are your friends. We are available to you.
Now you feel a lot more friendly.
Our cable commission is available to the districts. Please take advantage.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, would you introduce, please?
All of our well, not all of our members are here tonight, but lots are here to support. We have Stacy, Shauna is behind me, Amanda, Kristen, Jen, Amy, and Lizzie. So thank you all to the members for coming, and oh my God, I'm sorry. I skipped right past you. And Jessica,
Great.
part of our group.
Well, you all did a fabulous job, you especially, because you were up here.
Thank you.
But the ladies in the background, you didn't see them on camera because we had close shots. You all saw them holding up the signs. And thank you for paying attention to what they were telling you.
Yes,
You were
good
almost
job.
all in a second, so that's great. You should do time clocks for basketball games. Thank you very much to the people of Villa Park. Thank you for watching. Again, this program will be on at 6 p.m. every night until the next forum. It will be broadcast on Channel 6 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T. It'll also be on live stream. And if you go to tvvpstyle.com, we will have a link to our YouTube channel. So you don't have to watch it at 6. You can watch it at 2 in the afternoon and hear more from the people that were here. So thank you very much. Thank you, Villa Park, for watching. And that's it from TV VP Style.